have occurred were certainly not intentional and were done with the best interest of the process in mind. I am deeply appreciative to all parties and groups who have steadfastly engaged with my team and I, and with each to allow us to reach the final outcome before us. I consider the text to be adopted to be a reflection of both a delicate balance that responds to the interests of all of us represented in this conference, and also a manifestation of the highest ambition that can be reached at this point in time on these very important work streams. At the beginning of this conference, 112 world leaders gathered here under the theme Together for Implementation to deliberate on how to further deliver on the global climate agenda and translate climate commitments into implementation. The leaders underlined the gravity of the climate crisis and urged us to double our efforts and ensure delivery of concrete results. Distinguished delegates, the draft decisions before us are a gateway to scaled-up implementation and will enable us to transform towards a future of climate neutrality and climate-resilient development. I call upon all of you to view these draft decisions not merely as words on paper, but as our collective message to the world that we have heeded the call of our leaders and of the current and future generations to set the right pace and direction for the implementation of the Paris Agreement and the achievement of its goals. With this in mind, dear friends, I implore you to adopt the draft decisions that I will present to you. The world is watching. I call on us all to rise to the expectations entrusted to us by the global community, and especially by those who are most vulnerable and yet have contributed the least to climate change. I now declare open the 10th meeting of the Conference of the Parties at its 27th session. I would like to continue the consideration of the decisions and conclusions recommended for adoption by the COP. The order in which the agenda items will be taken up is posted on the screen. I would like to begin with sub-item 8F, which is under agenda item 8, matters relating to finance. You will recall the following organization of work for item 8 that we had established. For sub-item 8A, a contact group was established and co-chaired by Gertrude Walensky and Carlos Fuller. For sub-item 8B, contact group was established by co-chairs and co-chaired by Yanni Felsen and Dominic Malloy. For sub-item 8C and 8D, a contact group was established and co-chaired by Turo Seguy and Richard Moyangi. For sub-item 8E, a contact group was established, co-chaired by Ricardo Marshall and Kelly Sharp. For sub-item 8F, informal consultations were co-facilitated by Julio Cordano and Ursula Fuentes. I thank all the co-chairs for their hard work. As mentioned, we start with sub-item 8F and return to the other sub-items at a later stage. I invite the COP to consider sub-item 8F, matters related to funding arrangements responding to loss and damage associated with the adverse effects of climate change, including a focus on addressing loss and damage. Further, ministerial-led consultations were undertaken by Minister Maisa Rojas from Chile and State Secretary Jennifer Morgan from Germany. I now invite the COP to adopt the decision entitled Funding Arrangements for Responding to Loss and Damage Associated with the Adverse Effects of Climate Change, including focus on addressing loss and damage, contained in document FCCC/CP/2022/L18, FCCC/PA/CMA/2022/L20. I hear no objections. It's so decided. I hereby suspend the 10th meeting of the COP. I now declare open the 10th meeting of the Conference of the Parties, serving as the meeting of the parties to the Paris Agreement at its 4th session. I would like to continue the consideration of decisions and conclusions that have been recommended for adoption by the CMA. The order in which the agenda items will be taken up is posted on the screen. I would now invite the CMA to consider agenda item 8, matters relating to finance. For sub-item 8A, the contact group was co-chaired by Yanni Felsen and Dominic Malloy. For sub-item 8B and C, the contact groups were chaired by Richard Moyangi and Tori Segio. For sub-item 8D, the contact group was co-chaired by Diane Blacklane and Eva Schroeder. For sub-item 8E, the contact group was co-chaired by Zahir Fakir and George Borsting. For sub-item 8F, the informal consultations were co-facilitated by Julio Cordano and Ursula Fuentes. Further ministerial-led consultations were undertaken by Minister Bhupender Yadav from India and Minister Chris Bowen from Australia under sub-item 8E, and by Minister Maisa Rojas from Chile and State Secretary Jennifer Morgan from Germany under sub-item 8F. I thank the ministers and all the co-chairs for their hard work. I will take up sub-item 8F and 8E now and return to the other sub-items at a later stage. I invite the CMA to consider agenda sub-item 8F, matters relating to funding arrangements responding to loss and damage associated with the adverse effects of climate change, including a focus on addressing loss and damage. I invite the CMA to adopt the draft decision entitled Funding Arrangements for Responding to Loss and Damage Associated with the Adverse Effects of Climate Change, including a focus on addressing loss and damage contained in document FCCC/CP/2022/L18, FCCC/PA/CMA/2022L20. If there are no objections, it is so decided. I now invite the CMA to consider agenda item 4, matters relating to the work program for urgently scaling up mitigation ambition and implementation referred to in paragraph 27 of decision 1/CMA3. The SAPSTA and the SBI were unable to conclude their consideration of these matters, and they were forwarded to the CMA for further guidance. I would like to thank Carlos Föhler and Kay Harrison for continuing informal consultations this week. I would also like to thank Minister Barbara Cressy from South Africa and Minister Dan Jorensen from Denmark for leading ministerial consultations on my behalf. A senior member of my delegation, Amr Osama Abdelaziz, also conducted consultations on these matters. I invite the CMA to adopt the draft decision entitled Matters Related to the Work Program for Urgently Scaling Up Mitigation Ambition and Implementation, referred to in paragraph 27 of decision 1/CMA3, as contained in document FCCC/CMA/2022/L17. I give the floor to Switzerland.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I speak on behalf of the Environmental Integrity Group. As we have discussed that we need some time to look at the cover decision. We will have to look together how the mitigation reflected in the cover decision together with the mitigation work program. We have just received the cover decision before and we did not have time to really study it. So our group will need time for consultation and study it, and we will have to postpone with adoption of that decision. We would suggest that we interrupt this plenary for half an hour so that delegations can have a look at the proposed decisions and that they can come back and take informed decisions. Thank you very much.
I thank you. If there is no objection to the proposal of suspension for half an hour, I see none. It is so decided. The meeting is suspended for half an hour.